Welcome into the 304 podcast here live. It is Wednesday night. It is pre-Backyard Brawl evening. I hope everybody's doing well with me tonight. I'm your host, Sam the Man. We've got Marcus Dean and our good friend, Big Puck from out west. Pittsburgh native, Mr. Puck came on to tell me that I'm stupid. How's it going, guys?
Not too bad. You guys able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Sounding good.
Everybody doing all right this evening? Have a good day?
Yes. It is finally upon us. It is finally upon us. I'm excited.
It's been way too long since the Backyard Brawl has been played. This will be the 105th time that it's been played. Pitt leads the series 61-40 with 3 ties. So, West Virginia's got the work cut out for them.
Well, it's been like 11 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's one of those things that should have never stopped.
Yeah.
No.
I agree 100% because you have the coal miners from West Virginia taking on the steel workers from Pittsburgh. They're going to meet in the Steel City for the clash of the Titans. And who wins? We'll discuss it tonight.
Panthers.
The Mountaineers.
Panthers.
No.
It's
Panthers
funny,
are a touchdown favorite. Sam, I saw your little single pregame, whatever it is. You said it was going to come down to it's going to come down to your kicker. You really think it's going to come down to 3 points?
I do. I think it's going to be really close. I think. I really think it's going to be a home crowd for West Virginia. I think.
No way. No way.
I really do. I know a ton of people that are going to that game. I think, Pittsburgh struggled last year to sell games out. This one sold out immediately. I think you're going to see more blue and gold fans there than West Virginia fans than you can even imagine.
Well, supposedly, according to the ticket count, it's 75% West Virginia fans bought their allotment versus 25% of Pitt. Take it with a grain of salt. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I just want to see a packed stadium for a nationally televised game.
Absolutely.
Well,
I think you're wrong, though.
Well, let's hit this first, okay? Now, you're from Pittsburgh, right? Originally. Now, what from the Pittsburgh perspective, tell me about the Backyard Brawl. Like, what does it mean?
I never lived in Pittsburgh when the Backyard Brawl was going on. I moved there in 2015. Mm-hmm. So I guess I missed it by 4 years. I just know that everybody I worked with and everybody who I talked college football with, they were Penn State fans first, and then Pittsburgh fans. Pittsburgh was a hometown team, but it was never on par with like Big Ten, Ohio State, Penn State, thing like that. But they were happy to have a local team that was competitive. And when it came to the Backyard Brawl, fuck West Virginia. Everything. Hail to Pitt, fuck West Virginia. So that's why I think you're wrong, is that this is the first time the Backyard Brawl has been played in 11 years. It's going to be in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh just had Kenny Pickett go to the Steelers. There is a revitalized community effort around Pitt Panthers. Yes, it's not an on-campus stadium, but it is the pro stadium in Pittsburgh. It's right downtown. Everybody knows where it's at. There's a casino right up the road. That's going to be the main, tailgate and draw. You just take the T line into the casino, come to the casino, lose all your money, bet on the game, come to the game, have a good time. I think it's going to be it's going to be 50-50 split is what I think.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it'll show. My thing with Pitt is the fan base last year, for as good as they were very unenthusiastic, or that's what it looked like from the outside looking in. Like watching their home games and 40-50% of the stands were full. That was about all. And they were so good last year. I think they're going to dip this year. That's why I think it's going to be a West Virginia home crowd. I think it's going to be close to 50-50 at the very least.
I think Morgantown has a better sense of community around the football team than Pittsburgh does because there's so much going on in Pittsburgh. But I think when you come to this game in particular, any other game Pittsburgh scheduled this year, last year, whenever, you're going to have 40-50% of your stands filled. This game is going to be a full stadium. I think it's going to be 50-50 split between the fan base.
I mean, guys, if you're watching live, don't forget to hit that subscription button, the bell notification, and leave comments, guys. If we know you and you want to pop in, if you're a West Virginia fan, a Pitt fan, and you're watching, you want to come on, shoot me a message, and we'll see what we can do to get you on as we are live. Go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah, this to echo off of you guys. I think this is going to be a battle between the quarterbacks. You got the two transfers. They know each other. They played with each other at USC. How ironic is one ends up at West Virginia, the other one ends up at Pitt. I mean, who is now? You can truly find out who is the better quarterback, JT Daniels or Keaton Slovis. They're going to meet. So
I have an interesting point on that one too, because West Virginia's offensive coordinator came from USC with JT Daniels playing for him and Keaton Slovis.
Yep.
But I think that he's in that coach's room talking to the defensive coordinator, being like, this is Slovis, this is, drop back, this is his pass. And even Pat Narduzzi was like, look, JT Daniels has accuracy that's unbelievable. They're both really high up on each other. They know their quarterback system very well. So I think it's going to be interesting.
I agree with Mark. I agree with you both. It's going to be a showdown between the quarterbacks. I mean, I think Pitt and West Virginia both are kind of in the same boat where we really don't know what we're getting when it comes to the quarterbacks. We think we know, but we really don't. And it's just going to take the game tomorrow night to kind of show, who got the better transfer. I know both of us are very happy with who we got.
Well, and another thing too is West Virginia's offensive line is another big key for me is their offensive line going to be able to protect JT Daniels, because we know JT Daniels is injury prone. He stayed injured 90% of the time he was at USC, a good chunk of the time when he was at Georgia. He only started 7 games at Georgia. So, I mean, he looked great in those 7 games that he played, but he was playing behind an SEC line. So not to throw shade or no disrespect, but West Virginia doesn't have an SEC line.
Well, West Virginia's line. Now I'm not going to say they're an SEC line, but they are all returning. They had their bright spots last year. Now I'm not very big on Matt Moore. You know that, but if there's a year where the line can outdo what the coach's ability is to tune them up, it's this group this year.
So Sam, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
I give you that West Virginia's offense might shine. Do you think it outshines Pitt's defense?
I think it's going to be close. I mean, honestly, for Pitt's defense, I think it's going to come down to your D-back play. If JT Daniels comes out firing on all cylinders, we know West Virginia has the receivers to get the ball down the field.
They love going down the field.
It's all going to come down to your D-back play. If your D-backs are on point, that's going to make it rough. And the thing is I talk about throwing the ball down the field, but really the game outside of that is going to be who establishes the run.
Exactly.
I mean, really, because West Virginia, their defense is suspect on the back end too. I mean, it's almost like these teams mirror each other in a lot of ways.
They do. Absolutely. And you got to think too, you got to look at the grand spectrum of things. Pitt has two very talented tailbacks, and Izzy Anabakanda and Vincent Jackson. That was, Jackson, if I'm not mistaken, is the other tailback, number 22 for Pitt. He's a very Vincent Davis. I'm sorry, Davis. He's a very, very talented back. And also Izzy, I mean, one of the best backs in the ACC. We shall see. I mean, you got to look at it from that aspect too.
I think Chad made a good point there. Can I talk on Chad's point?
Yeah. Yep.
So West Virginia had 10 transfers. 5 of them are going to play in this game. They also had 33 new players on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about recruiting. Recruiting has to be huge for West Virginia. And Pitt. Pitt had a lot of transfers too. So we have like you said earlier, we have no idea what's coming out of the gate here.
Well, I will say this. And the difference between West Virginia's losses and gains and Pitt's losses and gains. And now I was very, very critical of the losses that we had. If you go back and watch the videos, I was very critical, but it seems to me like the guys that they brought in want to be in Morgantown. They want to be playing for the Mountaineers. And that in itself says a lot about the direction of the team. Now, that doesn't always equate to the best talent, right. But it sometimes it does equate to the best development when you have guys that really want to be there and they really want to learn. So I think this will be the time where we we really find out what kind of system Neal Brown's got in for developing players, what Graham Harrell actually brings to the table. Because, that's another big outlier is Graham Harrell. That's why I think Casey Legg's going to be such a big deal for West Virginia is because Graham Harrell was synonymous at USC for stalling out drives.
Right.
And
that's exactly why you're going to lose. That's exactly why Pitt's going to win. Pitt defense last year let 25 points per game, and you have a brand new OC coming in from he came from USC, right? So he's like, you're not going to win. You don't have time to establish that system. Plus, he's known for stalling out drives.
Well, he is, but at the same time, last year West Virginia was 18th in the country in red zone offense. So,
and Pitt's defense was number 4 in red zone defense.
Right. I mean, but it's a new year. There's a lot of changes. I mean, you could dive in statistically to this game and look at 1,000 different things.
Well, and plus too, Pitt they're breaking in a brand new OC as well as in Frank Segnetti. I mean, we don't know what type of system Segnetti is going to run. Is he going to run the same system as Whippleman ran last year to fit Keaton Slovis, or is he developing a brand new system to fit Keaton Slovis?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, and that's what makes this matchup I wanted to pick it for game of the week, but we went a different direction with that just because we've talked so much about the Backyard Brawl. But this really is week 1 game of the week. It really is. When you look at all the other games, there's a couple that compare, Penn State, Purdue's a good game. Utah, Florida is going to be a great game. But West Virginia, Pitt, these are 2 teams that need to establish a win week 1.
One of these teams have to come out and on the plus side.
And West Virginia needs it more so just because of what it'll mean for the fan base. It'll bring a little more leniency in, I think, for Neal Brown, and it'll show us that he can be a coach.
Not able to outcoach Pat Narduzzi. He's going to lose.
Well, I mean, I think he can. I think he can.
I think he said himself.
Shot. I think this is our best shot. I agree with that totally.
I think it comes down to defensive play. I think both offenses are such wild cards right now. And I'll say JT Daniels and WVU offense probably will take over for the offensive game. But it comes down to Pitt's defense. You got your DBs returning. You got your safeties returning. They're going to take over. the 16th ranked defensive team last year. They allowed 25 points per game. That's why you said if West Virginia can score 30 points, yeah, they have a real shot. They're not going to get anywhere near 30 points. And it's not going to come down to a field goal.
I think it will come down to a field goal. And I think, I don't know the statistics on what Pittsburgh gives up week one point-wise, but I know West Virginia scores on average 35 points the first game of the season, regardless of who it is. That's another thing that you have to kind of take into consideration. Pittsburgh's defense isn't going to come out and be up to par. It's just not going to work that way. I think that West Virginia is going to have so many wrinkles that they're going to throw out there and show you so many different looks that it's going to take a half for Pittsburgh to adjust to their offense.
Not with a brand new offensive coordinator. You're not going to give up all your secrets game one.
I think you will. See, I don't agree with that with this game. I think that you throw the kitchen sink at it because the only other main, like rivalry game, they follow that up with going to Virginia Tech. But I mean,
you don't want to show Virginia Tech too much either, though. You gotta find a happy medium.
Well, I don't agree with that because the bigger win is Pittsburgh. I mean, if West Virginia could go and beat Pitt, they're going to be automatic favorites to beat Virginia Tech. I mean,
no matter what Virginia Tech. What if Virginia Tech's undefeated going into that game?
Who do they play?
They have Old Dominion, which should be a W. Boston College, then Wofford, then West Virginia.
I mean, that don't mean nothing.
True.
I mean, if this game for West Virginia really is bigger for West Virginia than it is for Pitt,
and that's because Pitt's already ranked. They don't need to win.
Well, that's the thing.
They will win, but they don't need it.
See, and that's
they need all the help they can get because not only do they have to play West Virginia, but they have to play the super crazy Josh Heupel offense in Tennessee the very next week.
Well, and that's the thing with
Tennessee's going to be an underperformer like they are every year, though.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but Marcus is B deep on Tennessee. But I mean, to say that the game is bigger for West Virginia or Pittsburgh, that's just hyperbole. But for West Virginia to win would mean more for their program. Now, Pittsburgh, on the other hand, I mean, they love to beat West Virginia when West Virginia's down or when they're up.
Had Slovis jumping on the table saying "fuck West Virginia" a couple days ago. So
yeah, I mean, it's a fun rivalry. Like it's funny how much hate there is with that rivalry. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of hate in that rivalry.
Well, and the schools ain't separated by very far either.
Yeah, 75 miles, I think.
Yeah. Not very far at all.
No.
I mean, you got to think too. I mean, I look at this whole thing as a kind of an outsider for me because I grew up in West Virginia and I know a lot about the ACC and I know a lot about Pitt. I mean, I understand where both you guys are coming from, but to me, it's just Pitt's defense is just a hair more consistent than West Virginia's offense. I mean, like you said, Sam, West Virginia's
last year. They were last year.
But it's 5 returners for all your linemen and your safeties come back this year.
West Virginia
or linebackers, excuse me.
West Virginia is going to have to throw the kitchen sink at Pitt, and they're going to have to throw some weird stuff and do stuff out of their ordinary. Neal Brown's going to have to show vulnerability in this game, and he's going to want to have to kind of take the gloves off and say, "Hey, this is my team. This is what I want to do, and damn it, get on or get off."
Okay, so question: do you think that, with that being said, do you think West Virginia will have to do something like a fake punt or some kind of crazy 4th down conversion?
Oh, absolutely. There'll be something. Yeah, there'll be a fake punt, a fake field goal, 2-point conversion, something out of the ordinary.
You want to know what Pitt's 4th down conversion stop percentage was last year?
I'd say
they were 97%. Only 3% of 4th downs converted against Pitt last year.
I mean, that's statistically awesome. But
last year,
rivalry games, and that's the thing though. And I would say this about any big rivalry game, like statistics are big, and a lot of people on YouTube love statistics. But rivalry games, you got to kind of put those to the side a little bit. Like, really what it comes down to is this is going to be two teams, both with established defenses, bringing out their new offenses and trying to see how they can pick each other apart. That's essentially what it's going to be.
They're going to throw everything. I think both. I think Pat Narduzzi, I think he plays his corners on an island just like he likes, and this dares West Virginia to throw the ball against them. And then on the offense, I think Frank Stagnetti is just going to just throw shit out there and see what sticks, because we don't know.
See, here's something else to think about too, and like I don't want to throw this conversation in there because of the way I felt about Jared Dagey last year.
Oh.
But you take a quarterback that's playing Big 12 football, he transfers out because he sees the writing on the walls. He goes to Western Kentucky, can't win a starting job. He hits the portal again and goes to Troy, can't win a starting job. How limited was the West Virginia Mountaineers last year and what they were able to do with his deficiencies? Because it didn't show that bad on the field. Not that bad. Well,
if that's the case, I blame the coaches. Why didn't the coaches yank him and put in Garrett Green or Goose Crowder? I mean, they couldn't have done any worse.
JT Daniels doesn't even know who QB1 is. But how many QBs do you have on West Virginia's roster right now?
There's Garrett Green, Goose Crowder, Nico Marchial, and JT Daniels.
I think there's one more. I think there's 5. I can't remember the name though. I could be wrong.
I don't know. Those are the 4 that's coming to mind.
But that's a different conversation, like the coach and the side. But what I mean is, the scope of what West Virginia and Neal Brown even wanted to run, we really have no idea, really, because I think they were really limited and they were afraid to let him do too much. As we saw oftentimes when he was put in a position to come in and pick up, he just he was very deficient. And going from Big 12 to Western Kentucky to Troy and not being able to find a job, that kind of highlights that more so than anything, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
It's bad when you can't go to Troy and start.
Yeah.
I mean that's like that was really shocking to me. I figured, he'd go to Western Kentucky, he'd probably ball out and have a good year, and then, he goes from there to Troy and that still doesn't land a gig. And it's like, man, how limited was West Virginia's playbook? I think Graham Harrell, I've got my questions about him. Like I said, he stalled out a lot of drives at USC. That'd be the first thing a USC fan will tell you about his offense. Is that going to be what we run into here? I don't know, but it's setting up to be one of those games where the fans are the ones that's really going to reap all the benefits of this game. It's going to be awesome.
I'm so happy it's Thursday's night's starter. It's not midday Saturday. It's not going to get lost in the mix of all the other games. It's going to happen primetime Thursday in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. I mean, do you guys think the over-under is 55 and 50 and a half. Do you think they eclipse that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So if you was going to bet, you'd bet the over.
I would take. Definitely.
Yeah, I got the over. I got Pitt on points.
So Pitt, Pitt's still favored by 7?
7.5.
7.5. So you're taking Pitt in the points.
Yep.
I mean, and the thing is too there, and the reason I think it's going to come down to a field goal is 7.5 points. Take 3.5 points of that for home field advantage. It's a 4-point difference. At the heart of it. So yeah, I mean that's why I think West Virginia. I really can see, looking at this team, and if Graham Harrell stalls out, Casey Legg's a great kicker. I think it could be. I mean, I think it could be his night to shine. I really do. I really do believe that.
Or a worst case scenario, both defenses show up and show out, and it's a 17-13 ball game. Would y'all be disappointed?
Not if both defenses ball out and both offenses show their weaknesses. I think that'll get a lot of things cleared up for the rest of the season for both teams. I would take that as a win because both teams will improve.
It would honestly be, for both teams, would be the best case scenario if their defenses both balled out and their offenses shit the bed, because then we know what we're dealing with. Like, we know what we got. If the offenses come out and they put up and they just go toe-to-toe, score-to-score, that's a scary scenario with the rest of the schedules for West Virginia and Pittsburgh, because now your defense, who you relied on, had a really bad game, and your offenses look so good that you're going to overstock your offense and understock your defense, and then you come out, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and you really don't know you still don't know what you're getting.
What's
Pittsburgh
the worst
banked so much on Pickett last year. That was their entire offense, was just hand the ball to Pickett and see what he can do. Where I think Narduzzi in the offseason recruited to bolster that offense with all those losses, that he let the defense. No, I'm not going to say keep the status quo, but improve at their own pace. Where if defense comes out and struggles tomorrow night, that's going to put a wrench in a lot of plans for Narduzzi.
Yeah,
I would rather see the offense struggle than the defense struggle.
So what do you guys think is the worst case scenario?
Defense struggles.
Well, yeah, that's the worst case. Worst case scenario is both defenses struggle and it's a shootout. And then it's a shoot. We have no idea what's going to happen then, because it's going to come down to who executes more.
So the consensus is something in a happy medium where offense looks good, defense looks good. Is there a happy medium?
I think that's what's going to happen. I think West Virginia's offense is going to look real good, but Pittsburgh's defense is going to take over that matchup.
I think if the defenses come out and they establish themselves, if the offenses for West Virginia and Pittsburgh both come out and establish the run, if Pittsburgh can keep West Virginia under 30, West Virginia can keep JT off his back. They need to keep Pittsburgh under 5 sacks. That's when the game is going to be at its best, because then, again, statistically, you throw everything goes out the window, because Pat Narduzzi's 22-1 when he has 5 sacks or more. West Virginia's win percentage when they score 30 to 40 points is ridiculous. So under 30, there's a couple of things that I would like to see as just a football aficionado that would give me more signs as to what we're actually seeing in our teams.
So do either one of you think it could be like a double-digit loss for either team?
I think West Virginia loses by 10.
I think here's what could happen, and this is just the footballer in me, is West Virginia's defense comes and struggles, the offense comes and struggles. The offense is so mismatched and patchworked that they don't have any cohesiveness to them. So they probably have to go run heavy, which is not good against Pitt. I could see West Virginia, if they struggle on the perimeter, getting the ball to the edge, I could see it being a really long night for West Virginia. I could see West Virginia. I could see West Virginia losing by double digits quicker than I could see Pittsburgh losing by double digits.
So that would be your worst case nightmare. Oh shit! We don't know. We're screwed type ordeal.
That's the Mountaineers' bread and butter. Getting balls down the field to the corners, and the long passes, vertical passes. If they can't do that and they're relying too heavily on the run game, that's too much. And yes, the game's going to be decided by who establishes the run game early. West Virginia can't bank on that, though.
No, they can't. We can't at all. Honestly, Mark, I don't think I would have an old shit moment. I'm really realistic when it comes to the Mountaineers. The last 3 seasons have been old shit since we started doing podcasts. You've been on. Yeah. I've been old shit from the very beginning. Yeah. This is the only time where I've kind of went against the status quo of what everybody else is kind of saying as far as, me predicting West Virginia to beat Pitt. And it's not necessarily that I'm so confident that they're going to just go up, and it's more of I could see West Virginia overperforming in this game just because they need to, and they haven't for so long, that they come out and the defense looks like a diamond, the offense looks like a diamond. Maybe Pittsburgh's offense is a little slow, maybe the defense, just ain't quite up to form, and they just come out and put a butt whooping on Pittsburgh. Like I could see that happening to a degree. That's why I think it's going to be a 3-point game. It's going to be really close. I think, that's what I could see happening. Just if the stars align, that's what I see.
Okay, what's your perfect scenario, Bucky?
Perfect scenario, I think it's going to be this way. Pat Narduzzi's been planning for this game for over a week now. He already called that JT Daniels would be the starter before the Mountaineers released that information. He knows West Virginia's, system, even if it is a new system. Pittsburgh has a new system. I don't think our offense is going to be the greatest point of the game. I think our defense scores more points than our offense, but I think that is going to be 3 takeaways, all pick sixes or returns for touchdowns. I think you're going to have over 5 sacks for JT Daniels. I think Pitt's defense comes out and dominates, and that's the winning factor. I think that to call it a field goal game, in my mind, I can't see that happening.
What's strange? I see both of your points, and I get it. I really do. And this from an outsider's perspective, I can see both scenarios playing out. But the scenario I keep rolling in my head is I cannot think until West Virginia's offensive line can show me that they can protect JT Daniels. Pitt's defensive line is just going to over outperform West Virginia's offensive line, and they're going to have to give him enough time to throw those vertical passes down the seams. They're going to have to give him 3 to 5 seconds. Is their offensive line outside of Frazier and outside of Nestor? Those are the 2 best offensive linemen on WVU's offensive line. I mean, is the other 3 going to be up to par on the same level as Frazier and Nestor?
I mean, they should be. I mean, they're all returning. There's no excuses when it comes to the offensive line. I mean, Daggy. I don't want to put too much of the blame on Daggy because the offensive line. You watch them last year; they were deficient. They were. But Jarrett Daggy has no pocket presence. He never did have pocket presence. And I think that's something that JT Daniels will have, is established pocket presence.
I don't know if he doesn't know how to scramble or if he just doesn't need to scramble. But JT Daniels does not scramble.
See, and that's the thing right there. And that's probably actually one of the best points of the evening is we don't know what'll happen once the walls start collapsing in on him.
No.
That's why this game to me is so fun, is because we really don't know. To get on here and say this is what we think will happen, or nobody knows what's going to happen. No. These 2 teams are they're so similar. I mean, they're and just kind of the way they've rebuilt themselves, and it's just hard to say. Coaching wise, I give the nod to Narduzzi as being the established better coach. So, for me to say Neal Brown has to outcoach Pat Narduzzi. He has to. There's a lot of ifs in this game. I just think it's time for West Virginia to start answering more questions than they leave.
Exactly. I think it's time for them to start winning more of these marquee matchups, not only for Neal Brown's sake, but it's for the program stability. If they can get the program stability, that'll boost recruiting. And Lord knows recruiting is tough nowadays. So you got, especially with the NIL and everything like that that's going on out there, you got to go ahead and you got to get that recruiting, and you got to hit it, and you got to hit it hard.
Well, West Virginia, I mean, their schedule is brutal. I mean, it is. When you're out of conference games, it's Pittsburgh and Virginia Tech. And, Pittsburgh. I mean, all these games could be losses. Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. Neal Brown's never beat Texas Tech, so there's no reason for me to think that he's going to. Who am I forgetting?
Would you mention Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Okay.
TCU's flying under the radar. Texas. I mean, West Virginia legitimately could be a 7 or 8 loss team this year. That's why this game. That's why I'm saying they throw the kitchen sink at it, because if you can come out and win this game, figure out a way to do it.
One of your 3 wins of the year.
It'll set your team up to be a little more confident going into some of those games that are going to be a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
Winning this game gives them a lot of confidence going into Virginia Tech. If they would go to Pittsburgh and lose going into Virginia Tech, I can't give anybody the one up in that game. It just doesn't compute.
So I have a question that I just now realized. Why doesn't Pitt play an ACC opponent until October?
Because the way the schedule works out with the ACC, you have 4 the ACC always plays their non-conference games first, then they hop into their schedule. It's just all part of the rotation. But this is the last year of the Coastal versus the Atlantic, and next year you're going to have the 3-5-5 format.
Cody Adams, WVU is going to run that ball all over that great defensive line of Pitt. Watch and see the progression the O-line is made tomorrow night.
We'll see.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, we're all, as West Virginia fans, we're all hoping that the O-line is where they need to be.
This is going to become the 412 podcast here next week.
412. I mean, that's what it's all about. The offensive line has been deficient for the last few years. I'm still not sold on Matt Moore as the O-line coach, and I've gotten a lot of shit from people on here over my statements about Matt Moore. Not a big fan. I just if he don't produce this year, then he's got to go. And honestly, if Neal Brown has a under 500 win season and he loses to Pitt and Virginia Tech and Oklahoma and Texas and Oklahoma State, let's just move on. I mean, that's how I feel about it.
Clean house, except for your offensive coordinator, since he's brand new. You got to give him some time. I would say, shoot, if they end up dropping those ball games and go to 4-8 or 5-7, or at worst 3-9 or something ridiculous like that, clean house. I mean, because you're gonna be playing with you've already lost your house money. You're gonna be playing with your houses on fire.
I mean, honestly, something I think West Virginia, that would actually be interesting for me is if Neal Brown has a substandard year and they have to go after somebody. I already know who I would love for them to go after, and it's somebody that I talked about today in our chat group is Manny Diaz.
Yep,
Tim, I don't know why I can't respond to you on the chat, but it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'll tell you that much.
Do you think? Let's talk about this game for a minute, just kind of bouncing to that. Because I said in me and Mark's pick of the week game that I didn't think this game is going to be much. No. I think Ohio State is going to blow the doors off of Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame with a new coach, and
that's exactly why it's going to be a close game. Those kids at Notre Dame had him on the staff last year. Now he's the head coach. Notre Dame has a lot to prove. Ohio State, yes, will blow the doors out, but I think Notre Dame's going to come out and score quite a lot too. I think Ohio State's defense, I don't know if close is the right word. I think it's going to be high scoring.
So you talking like 60-40, somewhere around there?
60-40 is where I was right. Was that?
Oh, gotcha. No, I don't think it'd be that high. I'm thinking maybe along the lines of, 35, 35-24, something along those lines.
No, it'll be higher than that. I'm thinking if I had to guess, I would say like 49-34, something like that. I think Ohio State will knock on the door of 50, maybe hit it. I think because I think CJ Stroud, I've said from the beginning, I think he's going to be your Heisman Trophy winner. Yeah. I think this is the game that you got to come out and you just drop bombs. If you can score 10 touchdowns, you go score 10 touchdowns. Like that's just the way it is.
Well, I mean, this is going to be his prove-it game.
This is the game of the week, according to ESPN, right? Or is it the Pitt West Virginia game?
No, the Pitt West Virginia game is the game day.
Game day.
Game day is there tomorrow.
Kickoff. Okay. I still think this is a bigger game than what people are even saying it for what it is a big game. I still think Ohio State wins, but I still think it's going to be a pretty damn good game.
It'd be a fun game to watch.
Well, you've got that game.
Tim says in the first quarter. I do think the first quarter is going to be a down quarter for both teams.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, Notre Dame gets a lot of love, and me personally, I don't see why they got it this year. Another game that's on everybody's radar too is was it Oregon and Georgia?
Oregon and Georgia. They're in the Georgia Dome,
Georgia's going to.
I mean, dominate. You know, the guys that like to do these pre-rankings, man, they just like to build stories, and that's all they did with that game.
Oregon hasn't been good in 5 years, 6 years. I mean, I don't understand the love for Oregon.
They haven't been national powers.
Yeah. But me personally, the game that I'm going to watch, because some of the, there's too many good games on Thursday night. Like, that's the one thing that I don't like is there are several good games on Thursday night. The game I'm going to watch that I'm really looking forward to is Utah, Florida.
Yep.
I think that's going to be a really good game. I think Utah goes to Florida and wins.
I could see it.
They should. I mean, they should. I mean, they absolutely should.
Yeah, I think Penn State goes out to West Lafayette and pulls a squeaker out over Purdue.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong again.
I can't even see that Florida game. I did not notice that. Yeah. I don't know. I think Florida struggles with their new head coach, Napier.
Yeah. It's going to take him a year or two to get his style of his players and everything like that. Mm-hmm. I think this year, you're looking at Florida looking at like a 6-6, 5-7 type year.
I think they do a little bit better than that, but couldn't tell you. The SEC is a struggle. If it's not Alabama, Georgia, then nobody knows where it is. Unless you're Tennessee or Vanderbilt, then you end up at the bottom. I think this UCF South Carolina State game is going to be pretty good on Thursday night as well, right during the Pitt game.
Well, if you guys get bored, during the Pitt West Virginia game, you always flop over to the SEC network and check out Tennessee versus Ball State.
Oh yeah,
wow!
One win of the season.
Huh? No, yeah, you got to see the high-powered, high-octane offense of the Tennessee Vols.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing about Week 1, man. Is like it doesn't tell you anything. It really doesn't.
No.
I mean, that's like everybody's like all these. The NFL guys are shitting over Texas going 4-0 in the freaking preseason. It's like, yeah, Detroit went 4-0, then they finished 0-16.
Exactly.
I just saw this. I have a question for Mark, being a Vanderbilt or being a Tennessee fan. I just talked shit on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt beat Hawaii 63-10. Does Vanderbilt come out and actually like in week 0? So it doesn't count. But like,
what
does
counts?
Vanderbilt come out? Does Vanderbilt come out and surprise some people in the SEC?
I could see it. I could see him, maybe surprising Missouri, maybe a Kentucky.
Maybe. Not Kentucky.
You don't think Kentucky?
Kentucky's like what, top 15 ranked?
We'll see. I mean, we'll see how they handle it.
Here's a question for you, Puck. I think it's since 1894. How many 10-win seasons has Vanderbilt had?
Since over a century
I think
ago?
It's since Vanderbilt. Like I think it's like 1894. How many 10-win seasons has Vanderbilt had?
1 or 2.
0.
0. You are correct.
I was thinking like
absolute. How many 9-win seasons have they had?
Oh, at least 1. They've had to have 1.
I think it's 2.
And who was the coach? I'll blow you one even better. Who was the coach then? James Franklin. The last time.
No idea who that is.
Anything. And where's James Franklin at now? He's at Penn State, and Penn State's going to go to West Lafayette and blow the doors off the Boilermakers.
This Penn State team has been underproduced. You talk about Franklin being the coach for Penn State. Like, why is he still the head coach? Like
James Franklin?
Or what's his name? I know he's I can't remember his name now. But the head coach for Penn State.
Oh, James Franklin. He's been there his eighth year. He's 60-some 20. He just signed a brand new 10-year deal.
Being from Pitt and seeing Penn State being the team that dominates Pennsylvania, Penn State has underproduced consistently for the last decade.
Yeah.
There's no reason that Franklin still needs to be the coach at Penn State. That entire team needs to abandon ship and start clean.
Well, and here's the thing, and I puck up on that. It's what I said when we were talking about that game. He's 11-11 in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad. That's for Penn State. That is not good at all. Like, how does he get an extension? Being 11-11 in the last couple of years.
Well, over the last 4 years, you bring in top 5 recruiting classes, and they think eventually those recruiting classes are going to hit.
Hope.
Well, I know exactly. It's like pushing in one hand and shitting in the other one, but but we'll see.
I don't know. I just think what team? Let's kind of we'll just veer directions. What team are you watching this year to overperform? What team do you think is going to surprise everybody this year and overperform?
Florida State.
Damn, you took mine from me. I had Florida State on the tip of my tongue. My other one, I think North Carolina, after seeing North Carolina play against FAMU, even though it's FAMU, oh my God, look at him. even though it's FAMU, I think North Carolina's offense as a whole got better. But if they can pick up their defense just a little bit.
Come on now.
I'm telling you.
You can't say their offense got better. You can't say that.
Okay, maybe not got better. As a wrong word there, maybe become more cohesive and not such one-dimensional.
Okay. I'll allow that.
because if you go back and watch their 2 freshman running backs run all over the field against FAMU, I know it's FAMU, and I get it. And their test will come this Saturday when they play Appalachian State at Appalachian State. They'll get a little bit stiffer test, but still. You can't in a college game throw 5 touchdown passes. I mean, that's pretty good.
It's FAMU,
but still, it's FAMU. I get it. I do. But still, I mean, that's still something.
Well, I mean, you got to remember though, like you're not talking about a team like Appalachian State or Old Dominion, teams that can get some talent and upset people.
Yeah,
I mean. See how they do against Appalachian State. I think that's a better gauge than Cupcake or FAMU, whatever.
Yeah. But it was sure
fun to I'll tell you who I think is going to overperform this year, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me. I think USC is going to be really freaking good this year.
I could see it.
Everybody, it's so crazy because like Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams was the second coming last year when he first came in and won in Bedlam. It was awesome. And then just because he leaves Oklahoma and goes to USC and takes Caleb Williams with him, it doesn't mean that there's going to be a whole big changeover from that. Like, I just think that people are really underselling how much value.
I think Oklahoma's going to continue to perform at level, but USC will benefit. Well, USC lost a ton of people too, though. So I have no idea about USC. And yes, is it LA? And it's hard to produce in LA unless you're Reggie Bush and, down there. But USC has been on the cusp of greatness for a while, but they've never gotten over that threshold. And do I think Lincoln Riley can do it? No. But I think he'll be even closer to that benchmark.
I do too. I agree. I do think Oklahoma dips a little bit this year. I think, And I'm not talking. I'm talking about an Oklahoma dip. I'm talking about maybe a 3 or 4 loss season. Like where some schools that's fine.
Do they lose Bedlam, or do they lose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they lose Bedlam.
They lose Bedlam. I think they lose Bedlam. I actually think West Virginia will beat them in Morgantown this year. I think this is the last time they'll play. I think Oklahoma and Texas will be gone after this year. I think West Virginia finally. I think this is West Virginia's coming out year too. So I'm just going to kind of be.
You can't say that you're not going to. You have a tough schedule and you're not going to win any games, and then this is your coming out year. But you got to fire your head coach because he's going to have a tough year.
Well,
but this is your coming out year.
But it's the reality of. Well, I mean that's the thing though is with all the changes that they've made, and what I mean by their coming out year is if all the changes that they've made, if it doesn't improve, then it's time to blow it all up because there's nothing else left to change but your coach. Yeah. That's why I think my faith is in Neal Brown as a coach. That's why I think it's the coming out year. I think we're finally going to get to see his moxie as an actual head coach, and it may not be what I think it is. Like West Virginia this year is a really hard team to predict because so much has changed. I'm just going off of kind of walking that fine line between being a fan and being realistic about it. Could this be their coming out year? Absolutely. With all the changes they've made, it's going to be hard for it not to be. But if Neal Brown's not the guy and the changes aren't the right changes, it's going to be a terrible year.
What happens if they're all close losses? Do you think Neal Brown succeeded?
Oh, he's on the hot seat for sure.
He's on the hot seat. If they're all close losses, he's still got to go. Because that's the story of his 5 years at West Virginia is he cannot win a close game. That's
close to no cigar.
So then you hire Harold, the OC that stalls out drives. So you're going to win close games with a guy that can't complete.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not big on Harold. I wasn't big on that hire from the very beginning. I am not. He's a much better offensive coordinator than the two guys that they had playing offensive coordinator who were not offensive coordinators. Like it's a major trade up because of what they had, but it's still not what I would want. I think West Virginia has patchworked their team so much, their coaches so much that it really is hard to gauge what the moves that they made. Like it really is because the two guys that they had calling plays in combination with Neal Brown, they actually had 3 guys calling plays at any given time last year, including Neal Brown. None of them are offensive coordinators.
Nope.
It was just guys that had been delegated those duties, and it showed. And, Graham Harrell is an actual offensive coordinator. So, in theory, that should be a huge trade up for West Virginia, even though he has the reputation of stalling out drives. I mean, it's all in how it works out.
Yeah. It's going to be – I love week 0, because nobody knows what's going on. And it's going to be a wild season.
Yep. The only thing that we know for sure – do what? Go ahead, Mark.
I said the only thing we know for sure is sit down, grab a nice cold Coors Light, pop some popcorn, prop your feet up, and enjoy the weekend.
Icy light. If you're in Pittsburgh, grab an icy light and call it a good day.
The only things that we know for sure, that we absolutely know for sure, Alabama, Ohio State,
or Michigan.
Ohio State. People are sleeping on Ohio State so bad. Like, I've heard people talk so much shit about Ohio State. Like, they were CJ Stroud, I gave him down the road until the bowl game, and he showed me in the Rose Bowl what kind of quarterback he can actually be. He comes out like this year, he's your Heisman Trophy front runner. He's going to win it. But Alabama and Ohio State, for me, those are the only 2 sure things of the year. Anybody else, Georgia's not sure for me.
Really?
Texas, no, they lost too much on defense.
They lost 8 of their 11 starters are in the NFL right now.
You can't discount Kirby Smart
and their defensive coach. That's what I'm saying. Like, They've lost so much.
See, I'm higher on Georgia than I am Alabama. Alabama had a really off year last year too. And I get Saban, but I think Alabama's on the downward trend. And Georgia's just coming up. They're not even peaked yet. So
we shall see.
But who's going to suck? What team is everybody high on? What team's everybody high on that's just going to suck? And I'm going to go first because
Michigan.
Mark knows that I've been saying this. Freaking Nebraska. I've been saying it.
Who's high on Nebraska? They barely even beat. They didn't even beat Northwestern in week 0.
Kirk Herbstreit picked him to win the Big Ten West.
What is Kirk Herbstreit smoking? No way.
Yeah, he literally on week 0. Yeah, the week 0 college football show. He picked him to win the West, and I can't remember who he picked to win.
He wants them to beat Iowa, Purdue, Ohio State. Who does he want them to beat? They can't beat anybody.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
they'll have to be Wisconsin, Minnesota.
And that's the thing. Like, he's not the only person that's really big on Nebraska.
And I don't get it.
Scott Frost was the worst hire that they could possibly have made. Martinez left, and Martinez was a damn terrible quarterback, and they didn't have anybody to replace him with, and he took off.
They got the kid from Texas, transfer from Texas.
And Texas was awful. That's not a good improvement.
Well, better than what they had.
Who else is going to suck? What team?
My alma mater, USF. But that's just how
they start off with BYU, don't they?
They do.
That might be a good ball game, man. Bringing the Mormons down to Florida.
I think Florida's going to
scare them all.
Get them in that humidity down there, man. You don't.
Here's a bikini. Happen. Oh my God, I can't see that.
Honestly, I think Florida's going to have a down year this year. I think Florida, and I think Brian Kelly, it's going to take, and I would say LSU's going to have a down year, not in terms of a down year that we would think would be like a 5-7 or a 6-6. I think they're going to fall between like a 7 or an 8 win team, and Brian Kelly is going to have an oh shit moment. This ain't Notre Dame. I just can't win games on luster anymore. I'm actually going to have to outcoach people.
See, I think it's going to be Florida that has the 7-win year, and I think LSU is going to have a 2 or 3 win year. I think it's going to be a really down year for LSU. I think
okay. Well,
Kelly. I think Kelly has no idea what he's doing in the SEC.
Well, let me ask you this one: Florida State, LSU. Who do you got to win that game?
Florida State.
Really?
Just because I wasn't. It all came down to the week 0 game against Duquesne for Florida State. Last Saturday, I think it was Saturday.
Yep.
I said I even texted my buddy who goes to Florida State. Said, hey man, how much does Florida State lose by? Because I was thinking Duquesne was going to whoop up on Florida State. And then we came out and we let Duquesne score a touchdown, but I'm surprised at how good our offense was. Even against a D3, D2, whatever level school you want to say Duquesne is, Florida State came out with something to prove, even in a week 0 game. When they play LSU doesn't know what system they're on with Kelly. Florida State's going to have something even higher to prove. This is Norvell's year, make or break. Norvell's been there now. It has to figure this out by now.
Yeah, it's year 3. Funny, Timmy. Nice comment, buddy. We'll see.
Tim out there creeping around watching us like some perv in a white van. Well, guys, we've been on for an hour. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate you guys coming on. We're going to have to do this more often. Marcus Dean, Big Puck, and Sam the Man, the guys of the 304 podcast.
Talking to you guys.
Yeah, man, enjoy it. Dude, especially when hockey season gets to coming, I'd like to, we'll talk about that. But sure. Guys, this is the 304 podcast here on YouTube. Hit that subscription button. Leave us comments. We'll come back and check them and answer your questions. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We're signing off for the night.
304 out.
Eat shit.